Ladies and gents, welcome to the home of Rangers, Ibrox. A couple weeks ago we headed up to Glasgow to learn all about the early history of Scottish football. Whilst there, of course, we had to check out the two big hitters side by side. I know this is going to cause a bit of a stir. We've got Celtic and we've got Rangers. The very first time we made a video here on the channel in Scotland, we did both the Celtic and the Rangers stadium tour. We made a video head to head on which stadium tour was the best. Not necessarily the best club, the best stadium, but the best tour. It was light-hearted, but it was very vague. So today we're going to expand on both the Celtic and Rangers history, but because they won the stadium tour face-off, we're going to start with this club right here, the Rangers Football Club, a roller coaster of a ride throughout their history. We're going to look at their early years, their birth. We're obviously going to look at some of their success, as well as the dark times leading up to, and of course, 2012 and liquidation. It's not going to be all doom and gloom though, guys. If you're a Rangers fan, you're going to love this one. And equally, hold off if you're a Celtic fan, because we will make a similar video on Celtic. So hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. I think I did. Maybe that's a sign. The Celtic flag's gone flying. With that in mind, let's tell the story. Let's go. So ladies and gents, if we're to tell the story of Rangers Football Club, it makes sense to start right here in Kelvingrove Park here in Glasgow. Of course, back then in 1872, this was merely known as West End Park. And famously, four young lads walking through this park had an idea. The rising popularity of football got them thinking, let's create a bloody football club. So they did so. That idea was sparked right here. Now those four lads consisted of two brothers, Moses and Peter McNeil, along with Peter Campbell and William McBeef. A very Scottish name. And obviously, forming a football club is one thing, but playing a match is something else. So although the idea was born here, we're going to have to cross the River Clyde to find the location of Rangers' very first match.
Did you know that before settling on the name of the Rangers Football Club, the lads used names of Weston and then Argyle?
Right then guys, I'm here at Glasgow Green Football Centre and I've just been inside reception because there's a lovely plaque marking the early history of Glasgow Rangers. Confirmation over here, welcome to the Glasgow Green Football Centre. But why is this place significant in history of Rangers Football Club? They didn't even have a kit according to folklore, according to the tale. They played in their own clothes. And the first game was right here against a club called Calendar, I believe. So again, you guys can correct me if I'm not in the perfect location, but even though the general area, all these fields are known as Glasgow Green, apparently the specific part of the fields were known as Flesher's Hall. Back in 1872, this would have just been a really humble setting. And ironically, I'm just walking onto an artificial football pitch. Long before the days of artificial football pitches, back in 1872, again, that very first game would have taken place. Now this is what really gets me excited when I do YouTube videos. We can go and do a stadium tour, we can see the trophies, you can learn about 150 years plus of history, but the reality is it all came from a modest setting like this. Surely I'm not the only one that gets all excited about this kind of stuff. And like a proper numpty, after I just filmed that, I walked straight past this sign. This is confirmation, site of Rangers' first ever game, bomb. And we did mention in the Celtic video, actually, I don't know if I've uploaded the Celtic video quite yet, but I did mention that this is the largest open air museum. Essentially, there's loads of little stops around Glasgow with a QR code for you to explore, wander. We're going to be meeting up with the Glasgow football tours tomorrow, learning about their history of football right here in Glasgow. We've done similar videos in Sheffield, Nottingham, Manchester. Anyway, let's move on to our next location. After those humble beginnings on Glasgow Green, the club was looking to progress, getting a bit bigger, so they moved right here to Burnbank Park. Now this place looks completely unrecognisable compared to what it looked like back in the day, and I can't pinpoint exactly where their very first ground was. They played here only for 1 year, from 1875 to 1876. Now their first match here came against a side called Vale of Leven, who were one of the strongest teams in Scottish football at that time. Despite that, Rangers would earn themselves a 1-1 draw. Not a bad result against a good team. So fittingly, there's a Scotland flag, or there's two actually, in the distance, because it was during that 1 year here that one of those founding brothers, Moses McNeil, would become the first ever Rangers player to play for Scotland. So they kept moving, they kept evolving, and as I said, only 1 year here, they'd moved south of the River Clyde to their next spot, Kinning Park. All right, before we get to Kinning Park, I've got to say, I've been in Glasgow barely 2 days and I've never met such friendly people. I had this misconception, these ideas before coming, that people were a little bit edgy. Apparently Glasgow's not the, how do I put it, but complete myth. Some of the nicest people I've ever come across right here in Glasgow. So I'm gonna leave the microphone off for this one, guys. Can you hear that? Not the siren, you can hear the busy road. That's the motorway, the M8. Now obviously, completely unrecognisable. This was Kinning Park, the stadium they played at for 11 years, from 1876 to 1887. We mentioned the previous ground only 1 year, but being here for 11 years, it allowed them to create a base and establish themselves as one of Scotland's biggest and best football clubs. But again, they wanted to keep progressing. So in 1887, as I said, they move away from here to a place a lot more recognisable. Fun fact, by the way, that the remains of the ground, obviously there's absolutely no remains whatsoever, but a lot of that building, or a lot of what was here back then, was buried underneath a lot of the infrastructure here, like the roads. So credit the motorway with the burial of the ground. Again, don't use ChatGPT for your source of information. Let's keep moving to Ibrox, but not the Ibrox you know today. Let's go. When in Scotland, you've got to drink the Iron Brew, and I've had a pleasant surprise. They do Iron Brew energy drinks. When you've been up since 2 AM, bear with me, guys. Because our journey through the history of Rangers doesn't quite finish here quite yet, because although we're outside Ibrox, did you know, from 1887 to 1899, Rangers would play at the other Ibrox. Oh yes, exactly the same as Celtic. Of course, there was a Celtic Park right next to the current Celtic Park. And apparently, I'm struggling to find an exact location, but apparently, according to my notes, Cairnley Drive, this little road here, was roughly the location of the old ground. Now the ground sat here, but apparently the footprint overlapped the current Ibrox site. Now, fun facts, actually, not just one fun fact, there were 3 Scottish international games played here at the old Ibrox, as well as 4 Scottish Cup finals, one of which was involving their arch rivals, Celtic. Whew. I'm going to polish off the Iron Brew, guys, because as we know, after 1899, they would move a few feet to where they are now. And let's go and explore. Let's go.
We're not indestructible, baby, better get that straight. I think it's unbelievable how you give them to the hands of fate. Something's all worth fighting for. Some feelings never die. I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanna know why There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. There's no easy way out.
Ladies and gents, in 1899, Rangers would move here to the new Ibrox, the one they've been at for numerous years. Now I'm outside the most famous stand at Ibrox. This is of course an example of the beautiful work of Scottish architect Mr. Archibald Leach. Well, that's a name we talk about all the time on the channel. Big fan of Archie's. And did you know he is a Glasgow local, and apparently he was a Rangers fan. Archibald Leach designed this stand. I believe it didn't open to the 1920s. I've got to check my notes, guys. Yes, 1929. I don't need to check my notes to know that he also designed Celtic's stands at the time. They were obviously replaced later on. He designed the old Trinity Road stand at Villa Park, stands at Highbury. The list just goes on and on and on. He's an absolute legend in football, and this is one of the last remaining examples of his work. Of course, I also speak highly of Craven Cottage, the home of Fulham, and obviously their similar one on Stevenage Road, the Johnny Haynes stand. This bears some resemblance, also some resemblance to that old Trinity Road one at Villa Park. You've got the dark red brick, a really traditional, grand looking design. You've got Rangers FC over there. This really is beautiful. To some people this would be gritty. For me, it's without doubt pretty. What a beautiful looking stand. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. So inside the main stand is as fancy as the outside. You've got the beautiful blue room. Now apparently this room used to have red carpet, you guys told me when you did tours back in the day, but you've got that lovely blue carpet now with the crest. It's also used, or adjacent to this room should I say, is the old manager's office. To visit an historic room or couple of rooms is really cool to see. And just down the corridor you've also got the trophy room, and it's not just your standard trophies, your league titles, your cups, etc. Loads and loads on display are items Rangers have received from overseas clubs. For example, clubs they've played in European competition. Apparently it's tradition to bring a gift, and these are all those gifts for all to see. Of course, guys, we've spoken recently about Hillsborough when we were in Sheffield. We've spoken about the Burnbank Park disaster in Bolton. Unfortunately, disaster didn't escape Scottish football either. We've got the memorial here of the 66 fans who tragically died all the way back in 1971. Guys, as you know, I am a bit of a wrestling fan. We've got a WWE title gifted to Rangers. This was apparently given by WWE to congratulate them on winning their 55th Scottish League title. We've got the Rangers side plates. Did Triple H or whoever present this title? And did he present one to Celtic as well? Or is the game Triple H a secret Rangers fan? So we mentioned that Rangers would move into this incarnation of Ibrox in 1899. Did you know that that same year, just before the move, William Wilton was the first official manager of Rangers, so he facilitated that move. He also won the club 8 Scottish League titles and 2 Scottish Cups, and of course that move into Ibrox brought a new chapter upon the club, turned them into one of the biggest football clubs in the world. But did you know just a few years later, tragedy struck in 1902 as part of the West Tribune stand collapsed. Now, although this wasn't during a Rangers game, it was actually an international game between Scotland and England. 25 spectators were killed and hundreds injured, and that changed football stadium design forever. Who designed the stand that collapsed? I know we've just been speaking highly of Archibald Leach, but this was one of Archie's designs. Unfortunately, it was his first major football stadium project, but Rangers did keep faith in him. He did express concern prior to the collapse that there was too many people in the stand. They stuck with him though. I don't think that would happen today, and of course he'd later on design the one I've just been speaking about. Now, over the decades that followed, Bill Struth would follow on from William Wilton. He was William's assistant, his right-hand man, and he became a legendary manager for the club, dominating Scottish football, winning league title after league title, establishing a culture where success became the expectation. Ibrox itself continued to evolve too, again with Archibald Leach leaving his mark with that stand I've just mentioned, the main stand. But of course we've just touched on another disaster following in 1971 that had nothing to do with a stand collapsing. Unfortunately that was due to a crush upon a goal. Now let's lighten the mood a little bit, guys, because they've won a whopping 55 league titles over the years, numerous cups, and of course Rangers fans will be disappointed with the ending of the last SPL season. It looked like Hearts were going to do it, the first team since Aberdeen in the 80s to win the league other than Rangers and Celtic, but no, Celtic clinched their 56th league title. So Celtic have edged Rangers in the battle for SPL Gold. Of course, Rangers have got that European Cup Winners' Cup, whereas Celtic have got the European Cup, and they have the claim of being the first British team to do so. A lot of people say Celtic are a bigger club just because they have a bigger stadium. Again, a reminder, I've got no dog in the fight. I've got respect for both teams, but I must admit that growing up, I had a massive soft spot for Paul Gascoigne. He was one of my favourite players growing up, and I guess as an Englishman, when you've got iconic players like Gazza in the 90s and then Terry Butcher in the 80s, it's quite easy to see those Union Jacks and gravitate towards Rangers for sure. Now obviously they had some other class players in the 90s like Laudrup, Ali McCoist and so on, but they also had a legendary manager, and it's great to see the statue of Walter Smith, rest in peace again, outside Ibrox. Legendary manager who managed twice at the club. Obviously his most famous spell coming in the 90s, following on from being the right-hand man of Graham Souness. Obviously Graham Souness went to Liverpool, so that meant that Walter Smith took the reins as the head honcho, and Rangers enjoyed 9 league titles on the bounce. He'd come back, of course, and enjoy success once again. But again, so many legends to mention, I'm bound to miss things when it comes to the history of this fantastic football club.
Here we go, this is what the players will experience.
Rangers have lodged an intention of going into administration with the court.
With Rangers on the verge of administration, what are the football with even greater adversity?
This is a difficult day for Rangers, but we'll emerge a fitter and stronger club from this. Thank you very much.
In 2012, Rangers faced the biggest crisis in their 140-year history. After years of financial problems, owner Craig White failed to pay millions of pounds in tax owed to the HMRC, forcing the club into administration in February of that year. Rangers were immediately docked 10 points, ending their Scottish Premier League title challenge, while debts were estimated to exceed £130 million. An attempt to save the company through a CVA failed after HMRC rejected the proposal. That meant that the Rangers Football Club plc entered liquidation, with its business and assets including Ibrox Stadium and the training grounds sold to a new company led by Charles Green. The new company wasn't granted a place in the Scottish Premier League. Instead, Rangers were admitted into the Scottish Football League's 3rd division, which obviously is the 4th tier of Scottish football. It was an extraordinary fall for one of Britain's most successful clubs, beginning a remarkable journey back to the top flight. Of course, Rangers, under Steven Gerrard, would go on to grab their first SPL title since all that in 2021.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really do find these interesting to make. It's not only fun to make the videos, but I'm also learning stuff along the way as well. So really interesting story, of course. I'd heard about the 2012 liquidation as well, but kind of glazed over it as a somewhat ignorant Englishman who kind of bypasses Scottish football, or has to this point, because again over the last couple of months we've made a change to that, and the season's about to kick off again. And I did say I will return for at least a couple of match days this season in the Scottish Premier League, so I really look forward to checking out both Rangers, maybe the rivals, and lots of other clubs as well, because Scottish football is so much more than just the old firm.
as much as that grabs all the headlines. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you do hit that like button, subscribe for loads more football history videos. I've done videos in Manchester, Nottingham, Sheffield, Glasgow. I've done loads and loads of football history videos. And of course, we also explore Europe to find different fan cultures. It's all about learning for me. What I love about this YouTube channel is it gets me out the house, gets me exploring, and it's fun. And hope you guys enjoy it too. So yeah, subscribe if you're enjoying it, and I'll see you in the next one.